was to decide the best test team in the world, and India came out on the wrong side for the second consecutive time. The writing on the wall was there from day one of the test match, and India's crushing 209-run defeat by Australia at the World Test Championship at the Oval was a rewind to 2 years ago when the country lost to New Zealand in the WTC finals. The men in blue have now extended their infamous streak of not winning an ICC trophy to 10 years. They last won the Champions Trophy in 2013.
Well, all is not well in Indian cricket. The recent defeat to Australia in the World Test Championships, though, is just a symptom. It's not the disease itself. What is really going on with Indian cricket? Has IPL contributed to somewhat, the downfall of Indian Test cricket? And where does the BCCI stand?
Sunil Gavaskar was among other cricketing greats who tore into India's batting, saying it was in shambles. Losing 8 wickets in one session of a test match, he said, was hard to digest. You bat well in India, you are the dadas in India. But then, some of them falter outside, Gavaskar told Star Sports. India's poor show has once again put the spotlight on India's misfiring top order. It is hard to keep account of the rotation in the openers, with everyone from Shubman Gill, Hanuma Vihari to Captain Rohit Sharma having been moved up the order. Captain Rohit Sharma is safe in the knowledge that heads seldom roll, whether it is the players or the cricket administration. Post-match, he had more excuses than acceptance of India's poor show, saying the team needed 20 to 25 days to prepare for the match, or that it should be a best of 3. He didn't mention his involvement with IPL till end May.
Ideally, yes, event like this, final like this, you need a lot of time to prepare yourself, and that is what we did in the we did last time when we were here in England. We had good 25-30 days to prepare ourselves, and you saw the result. We were 2-1 up until that game got called off. Ideally we would want to have good time in hand to prepare, give enough rest to the bowlers. Sometimes it can be tough because playing T20 cricket, you completely bowl different lengths, different lines, a lot of change-ups. But honestly, in a big event like this, you need to have fair opportunities to both the teams. A 3-match series would be nice, but it's about finding that window where it can be fit in. But I would love to have, in an event like this, you work hard for 2 years and then you have only one shot at it.
Indian Express summed it up for all questioning cricket fans after the defeat, saying the team was, to quote, sleepwalking into the same old problems, adding, it seemed like a rerun of an old movie or a copycat with minor tweaks in the script or a hastily cobbled up sequel with the same arcs but different settings.
What we saw in the World Test Championship final was just the end result of what's been going wrong off the field. And it's a series of missteps. There's no point blaming individuals. It's a failure of a system which has resulted in this, and it has continued for the last 10 years. And the fact that India has not won an ICC white ball title in 10 years should hurt every Indian. And the fact that our test team was doing well under Virat Kohli. He built a test team when it was in complete shambles after what happened with Mahendra Singh Dhoni in the latter part of his test match captaincy. I think all those gains have been frittered away fantastically by everyone, and a series of self goals have resulted in this performance. Actually, in these 2 years of the World Test Championship cycle, there were a lot of alarm bells which should have woken a lot of people up, but it didn't wake anybody up. We struggled to beat New Zealand at home. We struggled to beat Bangladesh away from home. We frittered away an advantage of a 1-0 lead in South Africa. Fantastic opportunity to win a test series in South Africa for the first time ever. Missed that opportunity. And the fact that after Virat quit test captaincy, you had to resort to getting in various stand-in captains. Rohit was unfit. He had COVID at times. He got injured. This World Test Championship final was the first time that Rohit was playing a test match away from home, away from Asia in the last 2 years. So that tells you a lot about where India's test team was headed. And I think the fact you can't, frankly, Jyotsna, I don't think we can blame IPL as such for this, because the franchises, broadcasters, and sponsors are not responsible for scheduling the IPL. They are not responsible for ensuring that the players are fit and ready for the World Test Championship final. That's the responsibility of someone else, and that's the BCCI.
Team selection for the match has also come in for criticism, and India was already missing a few big names due to injury when the baffling call was taken to not include R. Ashwin, the world's top-ranked test bowler by ICC ranking. Indian cricket carries the burden of giving too much importance to its cricketers based on their celebrity cult at the expense of form. Indian cricket has always been overshadowed by its star cast that allows a bad patch of mediocrity to go on like a never-ending soap opera. There is no concept of going out with your head held high. Even the die-hard fan then becomes fickle.
Like, all the blame and elsewhere is put on Nehru. Here, all the blame is put on Saurav Ganguly, as if he was the most powerful and be all and end all in Indian cricket. So I think if he was so powerful, he would still have been the BCCI president. I think also, I think that you spoke about 4 selectors. Last year we had 4 selectors, and these very guys, champ, fought tooth and nail in the Supreme Court and said, we are a big country, we need 5 selectors. How can the Lodha panel say we should have 3 selectors? Okay, granted, 5 selectors. The 5th selector quit and joined BCCI general manager. No talk about the 5th selector for the rest of the year in 2022. January, they bring in 4 more selectors in addition to the existing selector, chief selector Chetan Sharma. February, Chetan Sharma is stung upon by a news network. Amazingly, this is June 14th. We still don't know officially from the BCCI that Chetan Sharma has officially resigned. They haven't announced it as yet. They don't think it's important for us to know that the chairman of selectors has resigned. He has moved on. If you look at his Instagram, you know that he's moved on. He's playing with his dogs, and he's doing other stuff on Instagram, and he's busy. But they haven't bothered to tell us. We've had at least 3 or 4 squads being chosen by the selection committee. We don't know who's the chair. We don't know who is heading the committee in his absence. What is the process if he has actually resigned? What is the process to get in the 5th selector? When will that happen? Nothing is known. And the World Test Championship final was so important. I know that vice captain's role is not that important, but God forbid something happened to Rohit. It almost happened a day before the test match where he got hit on the hand. We didn't have a chosen vice captain. So you understand the seriousness of the situation when you see all these things happening. And what you see on the field is what you saw off the field, in my view.
Is it time for India to phase out some top players who may be holding up a spot in the team only based on their past reputation? Crucially, does India have replacements? Rahul Dravid has a stellar reputation as one of India's great, but questions need to be asked of him as a coach. His record shines better with grooming juniors in India A rather than implementing a set team. Since his elevation, the ready bench strength that India A gave has also disappeared.
2006, and I was there at that test match. And just to remind Chandresh, you spoke about all those games that I was there where India and Dungal. That was the first time India won a test match in South Africa. So that test match, 2006, Rahul Dravid is the captain. It's a green track, tougher conditions to bat on than the ones that we saw here at the Oval. And he says, you know what, we won the toss and we batted first. And somehow we struggled to a 250. And then what? We got the opposition out for 90 odd. So he says that was also an Indian team, right, which took the risk, which said, okay, it's a big game. We've got to do it. We have to, put our best foot forward. We'll take the more aggressive decision in winning the toss and batting first. So he said, I'm surprised if as captain he took such strong decisions. Why is it that now, as coach, he's part of a setup which is taking safer calls?
The Joker's tag does not fit, but why has India stopped winning ICC trophies? In the 2014 T20 World Cup, India lost the final by 6 wickets to Sri Lanka. In the following year, India was defeated by host Australia in the ODI World Cup. In the 2016 T20 World Cup in India, West Indies defeated the hosts to become world champions. In the next year, arch rivals India and Pakistan took on each other in the Champions Trophy final. India lost. In the 2019 ODI World Cup, India crashed to New Zealand in the semis. The Kiwis then got the better of India in the World Test Championship. In the same year, the T20 World Cup in the UAE, India failed to reach the knockout group after back-to-back defeats to Pakistan and New Zealand. In 2022, India didn't make it to the final of both the Asia Cup and the T20 World Cup. Rebuilding is as much a part of sport as winning. The golden age of Spanish football, when the team won 3 major titles in the space of 6 years with the likes of Iniesta and Casillas and more names than it could handle, eventually did retire. It is now trying to rebuild with fresh blood, and much depends on the BCCI whether it has the intent to do the same or not. At 22, South Africa plucked Graham Smith out of relative anonymity and made him the captain. Can India look beyond the obvious names? The question that seems to be uppermost though is on the IPL. Has the private league destroyed Indian Test cricket? It isn't overnight. The instant cricket and misplaced hype of the IPL have been chipping away for 15 seasons. This year's IPL ended barely a week before the WTC, nor has it been the first time that the BCCI scheduled the tournament so close to a key game or series. This does not allow players to recover, acclimatize or play practice match. Only the Indian board has the answers, but until now it is neither transparent nor takes accountability seriously. The board still has a missing chairman of selectors despite its national team struggling and in dire need of a revamp. Nor are answers forthcoming on the constant injuries to fast bowlers, lack of fitness among Indian cricketers and whether India plays too much cricket. The last one may just have an answer.
Top issues. I think one of them is too much cricket. And you need to find a way out not to do it. I mean, again, a lot of people disagree on this issue, but I think there is some sort of residue of T20 cricket on our Indian batters, and it's not easy, right? I mean, you played a T20, they're humans, right? I give an example. You're the final day of a test match, and this you could, extrapolate it to any other batsman. So I'm only going to talk about Virat Kohli. It's not Virat Kohli specific, but I'm just quoting that example. As I said, you can extrapolate it to all other batsmen. He's just come off a T20 league, right? He's worked really hard to get runs in the IPL, which was important for him. I mean, it will take a toll on you mentally and physically. You then travel to the WTC cycle, and now you're expected to perform in a format which is completely different. You will get runs someday, but there will be more days where you will not be able to succeed. But what happens? He gets out one drivable ball, and then on most occasions, he would have found a different way to approach it. Maybe that he leaves the ball or plays it dead, wouldn't go for a drive. What happens there? That, consciously you can try and approach it. But as soon as your instincts take over, and it's not possible for you to be aware or really, be so conscious about every delivery. Your instincts have to take over when you're going to be batting for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Why have those instincts come in? Because that is your muscle memory. Those are your instincts that you've just come out of. You would play that shot and get on. I'm saying these are minor issues. And for any individual to make those changes mentally as well as physically, even for your muscle memory, you need to spend some time, probably play a couple of, toe games. It's a final, for God's sake. It's the final of a World Test Championship. Why wouldn't you take out that much time?
BCCI tightly packs the cricketer's schedule as though its coffers could empty if a tour was missed. BCCI's net worth is estimated to be around $2 billion or roughly 16,450 crore rupees, and its revenue model includes media rights, title sponsorships, kit and official team sponsorships, bilateral series and IPL. A report says its annual income is estimated to be around 3,730 crore rupees, and this includes 2,500 crores from IPL and another 950 crore rupees from cricket series.
That BCCI has kind of worked in ad hoc ways only because you have an honorary setup. So everyone's there for a few years, then they're going to move forward. When they are there, they have a lot of things to look at, but the structures won't be in place. There are already structures in place, but I don't think you can innovate. You can follow procedures, and that's what happens. But for you to really innovate, you would need professionals to be there for a long time that are looking at all of these things. But I think a lot more can be done. I mean, of course, if you speak to someone from the BCCI, and they are going to tell you that, listen, there are so many, look at the IPL rights, they've doubled every time they've gone, and in a period of about 10 to 12 years, they've gone through the roof, about 100 folds in terms of the increase in that prize money. Yes, the money is percolating down, I can tell you, to junior cricket. Junior players today are better paid, better looked after. Even state level players, all of that are better looked after. So yes, there is money there, and that is percolating down to every level. And those are certain things that the BCCI have done. The women's league that they started, I mean, that's been a success at the start. So there are areas that they worked on, but I guess, you know, your cash cow is Indian men's cricket, and that has to be successful. That has to be doing well for all other functions to be performing at the optimum level. And so I think a little bit more needs to be done. I'm just reiterating what I said earlier, that you just can't have, okay, we keep playing and now we reach another final and we play, we win, lose, whatever, we move forward to the other thing, There has to be a bit of forward planning, which I think is not happening.
For the BCCI, clearly, there is nothing known as too much cricket. For the players, it isn't a very tough choice. Instant fame, big money and immense hype. The choice is easy when it is against the hard work and slog of Test cricket. IPL's abundant talent mostly stays there or plays ODI cricket, but fails miserably to make the switch to red ball cricket. India needs to decide if it still aspires to be a Test team or it is content to rejoice in bits and pieces cricket. It is not just batsmen, even the bowlers are guilty of not making the switch to Test cricket. India's loss to Australia also showed how the team no longer has the hunger to be champions.
These private leagues can be a highly remunerative exercise if our players are invited to play them. And that is why they sometimes leave important matches or important fixtures and travel even overseas to participate in such leagues. So that itself explains and tells you the level of corruption that there exists in those games. I flagged several issues, right from the utter lack of resources that were there in the anti-corruption unit. A country of our size, with so many matches going on, so many players playing, who all needed to be properly educated in the anti-corruption code, and the likelihood of them being approached, them being corrupted, etc., and how they should react, what should they do if they are approached. So we needed huge kind of resources at our disposal, but it was never made available. All my emails were totally ignored, never replied to. As I've said again and again in the book, in my 3 years, not even once, would you believe it, Jyotsna, that not even once did anybody in the board ask me, what is the corruption scene in the country? What should we be doing? What are you doing? Are there any shortfalls anywhere? No such interest was shown by anybody. That is my pity.
Despite what BCCI thinks, there is something for too much cricket. Most cricketers are football fans and they need only look at Manchester City winning a treble. No excuses or relying on a celebrity cult. There was a goal and it was accomplished.
It's all very well to say that we are doing it for the love of the game, but you are kidding yourself if you are saying. And you know what this does? Because you're doing it for the love of the game, you are not accountable to anybody. You can't. You can demand the head of a Rahul Dravid, you can demand the head of a Rohit Sharma, you can demand the head of others, but you can't demand the head of people who are running the game. And so they can get away by not doing press conferences. They can get away by sending press releases at 11 p.m. in the night and 12 in the night. And because they know that whatever it is, the game will continue. People will want to know what has happened in the team selection. And it's been 7 months. Nikhil spoke about T20 captain under Hardik Pandya. They haven't spelt out that Hardik is the T20 captain. We are all working on deduction that because he is being named every time. And most of the time, I'm not an active journalist anymore, and thank God for that. Most of the time, I know that people are spending refreshing their email because suddenly a email release comes from the BCCI saying selection of the Indian team for the test series has happened. When the debate is, they've already had discussion saying that it will be announced 5 days later. So you don't know what is happening. So everything is in a state of flux. So suddenly everything happens and you can't question anybody. It's like, ये मेरा टीम है, मैं जब चाहूँ मैं सेलेक्ट कर सकता हूँ, आपको लेना लो ना लेना मत लो.
All is not lost for Indian cricket. The broken can still be glued back, team can be rejigged, fitness can still become a mantra, a new captain, quality over quantity, introspection and some fresh thinking. But what stands between a better team and victory in an ICC tournament is the BCCI.